Welcome to the Seek Outside Podcast. Yeah, there's no question.
So I see we have questions. 3 of us here are going to Alaska on a hunt, right? And we're all going to go caribou hunting, although you're on a different hunt than...
Those are caribou.
Yeah. So help us out. Don't shoot the moose.
Don't shoot a moose.
Hit the caribou, don't shoot the other stuff. Avoid the bison if we see one.
That's correct.
Yeah, exactly. And then I know a lot of people online I've seen have a lot of questions. So first off, if I wanted to do a shoulder mount, what is most common with...
The capes are cut too short. So the cape is what we refer to of the skin that's going to actually be the deer head, shoulder, neck, all of that. Back in the days, back in the 40s and 50s, they did basically neck mounts. So those capes would be cut real short. Well, nowadays it's a shoulder mounts, a whole lot of shoulder seam. So you have to go behind the shoulder when you're making your cuts. So our biggest issue are split briskets when they got them. Of course, every now and then we get the old timer that slits the throat still. You don't do that. But you got to keep in mind when you walk up on the animal and it's laying there dead, are you going to mount it? And it's like, let's take our time and take care of it. That's not the time to get in a rush and start, boogering it up.
Okay. So you mean by they're cut too short towards the shoulder.
Yeah.
And then down to...
We'd rather have more cape than we need than not enough, because then you're altering the form and cutting off several inches of a form, and you're going to get charged, for that.
Okay. So. And then now when people transport them down here, right, say they do, and not everyone's but a lot of hunters are flying or driving to somewhere. Do people make mistakes in that at all?
Yeah. Again, on these capes, what we look for, well, here's an antelope, not to be mistaken with your caribou that you're going for.
I will try to avoid.
So here's a deer cape. We just got this back from the tannery. Taxidermists send things off and get them professionally, commercially tanned. So if you want to hold that and that, you see everything is here. You've got your brisket, your underarms. This is way back behind the shoulder, so you're going to be able to do a full mount on that.
Okay. And so you're going all the way down to almost like where the rib cage meets.
Pretty much the sternum, So when you're gutting an animal, you don't have to go clear up into his neck. You can stop at the sternum and get all the guts out from there.
Okay. Reach in with the arm and get the rest, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So the people, though, are they salting them before they come back, or are they just wrapping them up?
We prefer that you don't salt them, because that's going to start drying them out, and we can't flesh the meat and fat off of it. Cut it off as close as you can to the back of the skull, leaving the cape hanging on. Keep it cool. The main thing is getting it to the taxidermist as soon as you can. Some guys, they might kill one opening day, and they don't want to make a trip down, from the hunting to bring a deer head. They're like, well, let's wait till the other guys fill up, and it could be 3, 4, 5 days later. If you're hunting in September in archery season, most likely that cape could spoil in that amount of time. So it's an investment to, hey, I'm going to leave camp, go down, down to the town and get this to a taxidermist.
Okay, well, we're flying in on this hunt, doing a drop camp. So obviously they're not going to... turn around and just give us a taxi right then and be like,
no,
hey, guys.
Not. Do you have salt being brought in to your camp? See, I've gone on moose hunts and caribou hunts. I'm the taxidermist in camp. I have and pay to have salt that's either flown in or boated in, because we're going to take care of those animals right there.
Okay.
It has to be taken care of. You're not going to get the caribou out with his head cut off and you're not picked up for 7 or 8 days. Most likely that's not going to make it. So it has to be at least caped off the head, kept cool as possible.
Okay, kept cool.
And 30s. I can go over a few little pointers with that before you go on your trip.
Yeah, is there a special salt that you need, or could you just bring some Morton's?
Morton's would work. Taxidermists buy their salt by the 50-pound bag from the feed stores, for horses and things like that. It's a mixing salt that ranchers use. So you could get by with Morton's, but I'll have people say, "Oh no, we take care of it. We salt it," and it's like they had a salt shaker and put some on there. No, it's going to be many pounds of salt that you'll use.
Okay, how many pounds would you want to use?
Well, for like a moose cape, I'm going to use over 50 pounds right off the bat for the first salting, first coat. Caribou, you'll probably get by with 25, 30 pounds first coat. It don't take long to use up that salt. You're going to spread it out on it about a 1/4 inch thick. So you're not just putting a handful of salt and then rolling it up. That's not going to do it.
Okay.
So.
Now, we're hunting kind of early in the season, right? So we may run into animals that are, in velvet, and we may run into animals that aren't, and we may run into animals that are anywhere in between. What kind of recommendations do you have, say if we shoot a really beautiful velvet one like you have up there, and it's fully in velvet?
Okay. The velvet's not going to last unless it's taken care of up in camp. Unless you killed one towards the end of the season and 2 days later you're back in the States or whatever and can get it to a taxidermist. Back in the day, a lot of these antelope are from 20, 25 years ago. I took formaldehyde with us. I had there's 12 of us would go on these caribou hunts. I'd have everybody pack salt. I'd take the formaldehyde, hypodermic needles, the whole thing, and actually take care of the antlers in camp. Now, what most guys will do, because they don't have a taxidermist in camp or have the formaldehyde or the substitute that we use now, which is about 90% alcohol, and not the drinking alcohol. This is...
Okay, so don't take a bottle of whiskey and just start injecting it in.
No, whiskey's too good to use it on that.
Okay.
And yeah, I would take care of them up there, but what most of the guys are doing now is stripping the velvet while they're up there in the camp. Because it's going to be bloody, and a lot of times they're putting it down in the lake, tie a rope to it, toss it over in the lake, and that starts softening it, and you can literally start peeling it off.
Okay, so now if we strip the velvet, your hunting buddies must have been incredibly fortunate. They have a really good taxidermist in camp handling all that stuff. Now, if we start stripping the velvet, are there things we want to watch out for or not do? Or what do you do with one that the velvet's been stripped?
Well, once we get them back from you, they're going to be white with blood on them, because they've been stripped. There's still blood in them. And what we will do is soak them underwater for could be a day or two, getting all the blood out of the antlers that we can. Not just the blood that's on the surface, because sometimes you kill them early in the season, which sounds like yours. Ends of the points on those antlers aren't going to be completely pointed and formed. They're still growing, so they're going to be kind of soft and rounded. So you just got to handle them gently. Most likely your antlers are going to get cut in half for the fly back on the... Are you on a float plane or coming in on a...
We're going in on just a little one-seater plane. I don't know exactly. I would have to look it up. But even then, if we fly back with, say, Alaskan Airlines or something, it's likely that they're going to be cut in half there as well.
And they're also, the airlines are used to handling, these raw capes that are coming from the different outfitters and stuff.
Okay, what about taking the cape, rolling it up, and putting saran wrap around real tight, a lot of saran wrap, and just making it into almost like a little cape log?
Okay, if the cape hasn't been processed, meaning the ears turned inside out, lips split, and all the meat and fat off, and then salt it, you're putting it in something that's not going to let it breathe, and most likely that's going to cause it to spoil. That's the worst thing, is having a cape sitting around unprocessed in a bag that's sealed up.
Okay.
So it's going to be tough. I have some extra caribou capes if
if we jack up our caribou capes?
If you jack them up.
Now, okay, so what would be better? Put it in a breathable...
Do you have a way of getting it frozen there?
Possibly, yeah. And there's also, you can handle it on a plane, or you can pay a fee and do, Alaska Trophy Express.
Mm-hmm.
They bring it down here a month or two later. Is there a benefit you know of one way or the other?
Well, you hate to get a lot of money invested in shipping it down and hoping it turns out. Now, you've paid all that money, or you can pay the money up there to expediters that get them dry salted And then they can sit around for months or a year. Once they're dry salted, that's fine. It's once we send them to the tannery and we get them back 6 months later, that they're these nice soft, leather on one side, clean fur on the other.
Yeah.
But when it goes in, and we can take a tour later, we got dry salted capes sitting around that we're getting ready to ship off. So
Okay.
I can show you that. But there's a lot of work to that in camp as far as taking care. I mean, a moose, you're definitely not going to let that sit around for a couple of days and think it's going to be okay.
Now, that is a really big moose
That's
up
a
there.
big one. Yeah.
How much bigger is that than normal?
Well, that one there's Alaskan moose over in the corner, and he's a couple of sizes smaller. He's about 52 inches wide. He's still a mature bull, but that one in particular is on the biggest moose form that I can find from any company. So it's a giant moose. The antlers, there's certainly antlers that are bigger. That one's 63 inches, made Boone and Crockett. So it's a respectable moose, but it is a very large body of one.
What do you think he was on the hoof?
Yeah.
Not something you want to carry out.
Well, they're not as big as a horse, but they're way bigger than an elk.
Yeah. If you walk up to a nice sized bull and you're thinking that it's going to be a similar experience, or you come from deer hunting and you walk up on your first bull, you usually say, "Oh, holy cow, this is."
And
a big
then with
animal."
your caribou, they're not close to being as big as an elk, so they're going to be in that 350 pounds. I mean, they're
large mule deer.
Yeah, big, but just it's not going to be an elk.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Okay. So you have quite the extensive collection here, and some of the things I've heard people ask online is, can you make money being a taxidermist? Now, just a little bit of chatting we did before, you could probably retire on just selling your deer mounts around this room and a few of the others.
I've got a lot more in storage, a lot more hanging in sporting goods stores. You saw the dungeon briefly. I've got a lot of them big ones down there too. The ones that are of value are the ones that make Boone and Crockett record book.
Yeah.
That's what the collectors want. There's a lot of collectors in the world of collecting. I mean, I'm a known collector, but I'm small time with the guys that own 200 and 300,
Really?
Boone and Crockett heads, and their collections are worth in the millions of dollars.
Wow.
Yeah.
How many Boone and Crockett animals do you think you have?
I've got probably 20 to 25,
Okay.
and that's counting caribou, moose, antelope, but mostly the mule deer is my thing.
Yeah, I mean, we were sitting here like, well, which mule deer would you take?
Yeah.
Which mule deer would you take? I mean, yeah, you even have a small black coal one there that I don't know if I saw that in the woods, I'd be a little like, that's different.
So that's a melanistic deer, meaning it had an overproduction of the pigment melatonin, so it turned it black. That's like 1 in several million, where a albino could be 1 in a million.
So it's even more rare than an albino.
Way rare. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you see one of those in the woods. Should you be shooting it to get it out of the gene pool? Does it not matter, or should you just be?
I don't know how the gene pool is going to work, whether his offspring are going to be black deer or is it going to skip a few generations. That kind of happens. So it's like, how does one all of a sudden be a albino mule deer and the mom and dad were just normal, colored mule deer? So it's just one of those things.
So you mentioned the collectors, and we talked a little bit beforehand. You said like Cabela's is a collector, right? Mm-hmm. Are there a lot of just private collector people that are like, they have a big cabin or a big lodge or something like that? And are those collectors avid hunters as well, or are they just more collectors?
No, most of them are hunters,
Okay.
and they've come to appreciate the very large antlers on deer and elk, and the most sought after collectible item out of the antler world is mule deer.
It is,
So,
because
yeah.
they can have such a large difference to them.
Yeah, and when it's officially entered, that's when this is a legit Boone and Crockett buck. A person can say, "Oh, I scored it and it scored 201." Well, that doesn't mean that's what it is. It's got to be officially scored and be in the record book. And what happens, like with the ones that I own that are in the record book, I might know the history of it and who killed it. Could have been back in the 40s or 50s. A lot of times it's unknown how this rack came about. Someone found it dead back in the 60s and left it to their kid who sold it to somebody, and I could end up with it 50 years later, and I don't even know what state it came out of. Sometimes I'm able to find that out.
Garage sale?
Garage sale, I buy them at garage sales. They're not everywhere at garage sales anymore because people know the value of these big antlers. So they're few and far between anymore.
So where do you source these now?
As in,
I mean, do you just check everything? Do you go to garage sales, estate sales?
Estate sales, auctions. I don't do a lot of internet stuff because that means a whole lot of people are looking at it that has more money than me, so I'm not going to get a deal on it. My best deals are someone that, and I hate to say it, the old guy dies, and the wife is like, I can finally get these heads out of my living room, and she's like putting them at a yard sale for $20 a pop.
And she's wanting to put some fine art in place of it, you know. And the old guy was like, I loved his mounts and stuff. So how did you get into taxidermy?
I kind of started hunting at an early age, and I was an artist that could actually paint pictures and things like that. So when I was going to go to college, it was either to be a phys ed teacher or be an art teacher. And it's like, nah, I wanted to coach, so I got into teaching school. But the whole time I was in college is kind of when I started doing taxidermy. I was back in Virginia, and it is an art. You know, it's not some redneck thing we do. It's art, and I thought, man, taxidermists in Virginia, we're going to be doing whitetails, the occasional bear rug, some turkeys, and largemouth bass. I said, the place to be is out west. Because, I mean, we have 20 to 25 different animals that we can get in during our hunting seasons, you know. So I did the school teaching there for about 7 years. I moved out here in '86 to start a taxidermy business. But no, you don't just put a ad in the phone book and put a sign out in your yard and you're making a living. I was working at a health club while I was building this business. As this business got bigger, less and less days at the health club to the point of taxidermy is all I do. And this is my 34th year in business. Pay the bills, everything's paid for. Always have 3 to 5 employees year-round paying their salary. So there's money coming in, but taxidermists don't get rich, that's for sure. You know, you're lucky if you are able to do it for a living. Kind of like being a school teacher. You're not doing that for the money. You're doing it because you enjoy going to work every day. And, of course, I love doing my thing here from my property, my facility. So I'm not in the traffic, don't have to deal with anything, and
yeah, you have quite the spread here.
Fun time.
And you have a lot of impressive animals. And to clarify, you're also a pretty avid hunter. You have a scary lion in there.
Scary lion. We'll probably see that somewhere on a tour here in a little while.
Yeah. I mean, did you say it was number 5?
When I killed it was number 5 up on the Grand Mesa. And when we were packing this out, we had a rope around the neck. This is the day after Christmas, so we're in like 2 feet of snow, very rocky up there. Rope slipped out of the hand of the guide and outfitter, and I was standing at the edge of a cliff with nowhere to go, and that lion came down. I spread my legs for it to go on through, and his little dew claw hooked my pants leg and took me off that cliff. Ooh. Yeah, I ended up in the hospital, but good thing I fell on my head. Otherwise, I could have been really hurt. So, but no, it messed me up, and that's been back in '97.
So the lion did try to kill you.
Well, and he's in my living room, and I'm alive.
So you won.
I won.
You won that one. What kind of story do you get when these hunters bring them? Do they tell you a story, and you're like, holy shit, that's a cool story?
You just said shit.
We're not.
We're in the man. We're in the man cave.
Yeah, we're in the man cave.
Yeah, I hear some stories, and some guys can tell some stories, and some guys can't. It's like I'm not able to follow it. It's like, would you hurry up, dude, and fill out this invoice and give me some money? Because
get the heck out of here.
Yeah, but no, I enjoy the hunters, and I love their stories, but, you know, some of them got you at the edge of the seat, and it's an exciting story, and then you got to hear the ones that... Yeah, they just...
Well, that one New Mexico bull you showed me years ago was pretty wild. The one that had stuff going off
and
the
we
side.
can look at that too after a while.
Okay. And I've seen that you're doing repairs, like Antler Repairs. That seems like that would be pretty involved and time consuming.
And I use real antlers. I don't use any sort of resin or anything. You know, and you get people come in, they might have one antler broke off on the elk. And so now instead of it being 6x6, it's 6x5. And they're like, nope, that's how he was. That's how I want it. Or they'll say, can you fix that? I'll say, yeah, I can come up with another antler and match that other side and be a perfect 6-point,
So that's how you typically do it, is like you'll get an antler off of a shed that you find or something.
Correct.
Instead of trying to glue the two pieces together.
Well, we won't normally have the original one that broke
Okay.
off. They
Yeah, I see what you're
fight,
saying.
it gets broke, it's out in the woods somewhere. So, yeah, rarely do we have, the original antler that broke off to put back on. So,
And do you have any favorite stories or any favorite animals that you've done? Like any that stand out?
well, anything that's real rare, like Cole behind you, the melanistic deer, that was cool. Anytime I'm doing something that is record book, because it's tough to kill something that makes the record book. That's why so many hunters salt after trying to get something that's a legit record book. But any of those are really exciting to do, because people are always coming by. What are you working on? Doing this Boone and Crockett mule deer, check it out. As opposed to, I'm mounting this fork horn. That's not really exciting. So.
There's a guy I know that I wish I could get on the podcast, Munther. He told me, I was hunting with him in Arizona one day, he told me that he'd killed several animals that were record book animals, but he doesn't put them in the record book because he disagrees with the record book. Mm-hmm. That the record book celebrates the hunter, not the animal.
Okay, but I will talk to official scores that say it's not about the hunter. Yeah, it's bragging rights, and there's a whole lot of hunters that only want to get one in the record book for their bragging rights. Oh, I'm a big hunter. I killed a Boone and Crockett. It's literally to honor the animal, and you're able to look in there and see when it was killed, what state it was killed in, who killed it, how many points, the spread, what it scores, and all that. But it's kind of a way you look in that record book, you go, look how many Boone and Crockett's come out of Colorado. Colorado has a lot of record book heads, mule deer, in the books, where Colorado doesn't have a lot of antelope record book heads in there. Now, where are they? Arizona and New Mexico are the better areas, to hunt antelope. So a way you can kind of educate yourself on where's all these big deer coming from. And that Grand Mesa up there is public land. It's not a special draw unit, and every year there's a few Boone and Crockett's killed up there.
As far as mule deer?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you've been involved in the hunting industry for a long time now as a taxidermist, avid hunter and stuff. How have you seen it change over the years? I mean...
Seems like the guy with the most money kills the better animals.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, a regular Joe like me is hunting public land.
Mm-hmm.
And then some guy comes in, he's killed this giant elk and killed it up on Glade Park or, Unit 61, one of these places that take, 14, 15 points, in some instances 20 points to draw. Or... I married the rancher's daughter, and he had extra vouchers, and he gave me a tag, and I could come up and, they will pass up more 6-point elks in just a couple of days of hunting that I'll see in 10 years on the Grand Mesa. I mean, it's just different hunting, private ranches as opposed to public land where everybody else is.
Yeah, I did a tour it was a private ranch over off Black Mesa area, and... yeah, they knew where all the big animals were. They were like, he's about a 440 over here, and stuff. But at the same time, I don't know, myself, I like kind of the adventure and the unknown part of it. Mm-hmm. It's more so than the certainty of I paid for a 400 plus. Mm-hmm. I'm going to get to shoot a 400 plus. I imagine that's got to be phenomenally expensive too.
Yeah. And of course they have shooting ranches, high fence, that we don't count that, as hunting, but there's certainly people that pay big money and kill these elk that score, 450 to 500, and they're crazy non-typicals, and, I'm mounting it for you, and I'm making money, and that's great, but it's not like you're out there hunting and scouting and, putting your wits with that animal. It's like, now, which one do I shoot? Which one do I pay for? It's like, that's not hunting.
It's kind of grocery store hunting.
Yeah. I heard something a while ago that I just kind of want to clarify. Is one of the reasons why mule deer are so highly sought after is because you can't raise them in like high fence ranches? I heard that a while ago. Whereas a lot of the big elk
and white
high fences. Yeah, is that?
And that's kind of true.
Yeah.
I really don't know of ranches that we're growing mule deer. It's the elk and whitetails back east. A lot of ranches, shooting ranches. That could be very true.
You did have, I don't see it this time, I saw it when I was here the last time, you used to have a really impressive whitetail that you said was from a fenced ranch in Pennsylvania or something like that.
Yeah, the racks.
Yeah.
They're downstairs. They're in the dungeon.
Oh, they are? Yeah, I'm going to guess.
You might see them. You keep teasing people with things. Well, we're going to have to do a little walk around.
It's coming.
We are.
It is coming.
We definitely are. I don't know. You guys got any more questions?
I'm ready to check this place out.
Yeah, I think we can move to the walk around section.
Let's go in receiving so you see how much work that I do that keeps me busy full time.
Okay.
There's a lot. We didn't touch on that. Doing taxidermy for a living, most people can't make it. I say, I'm 34 years in business. Most people give it a couple of years, but you have to come in to this with a game plan. It's like I say, you don't just put a sign out there and an ad in the phone book. It takes a while to build a clientele. Well, what are you going to do for money while you're trying to build your business? I worked at a health club till this business, took off.
You sold Coke.
Dude, you said that on Pepsi. No Coke.
Yes, Pepsi.
Cheeseburger.
Now, do you ever get bored of what you do, or?
No, but you can certainly get into just the same thing over and over, so you'll want a different animal. The ones that take a lot of time, I don't look forward to, are bear rugs. I mean, bears are cool, but it's 2 weeks of drying. It's on a big giant board. It's in the way. It's not like I mount a deer head and set it aside and let it dry. I get 3 or 4 bears on these big boards. They're in the way for a while. And then we got to do the felt borders and the backing. So they're a lot of work. So that's one that I don't want to get too many of them going at one time because they're a lot of work, time consuming. But as far as getting bored, really every day it's fun.
It is. Now you'll buy antlers and stuff from hunting shows, places up in Jackson Hole. If someone comes in here and they got a bunch of antlers, you'll buy, and they're nice antlers. You'll buy them. You'll do the same with capes and stuff as well.
Yeah, I'll definitely buy capes from hunters. We're always needing that. It has to be the male. It's got to be a buck or a bull or whatever. It can't be the doe. But the antlers, I'm not like a antler buyer that just buys hundreds and hundreds of pounds of antler, by the pound. I don't do that. I'll buy antlers. Someone wants to get rid of come with a truckload and they got a couple of deer heads, an antelope head, and an elk rag and some miscellaneous antlers. I'll just make an offer and buy it all. But see, I'm needing all those loose antlers for fixing points on other antlers down the road. So I've got tubs and tubs of points out there that I've cut off of elk antlers to use.
So I have a funny antler story, right? There was this guy we did a podcast with probably a month and a half ago. He's basically backpacked all over the world, right? But he does it more like hitchhiking backpack. Although a few years ago he started doing more traditional backpacking, but he's been in South America, Colombia, spent last year and a half or so in Costa Rica, right? But he's been coming back. He came back and he was doing more through the national parks and stuff like that, and then hitchhiking between them. Did a podcast with him. He left. He was backpacking across Colorado, doing a little bit of hitchhiking, and he sends me a photo of a really a nice deer antler that he found. And he doesn't know. He's like, "Are these worth anything?" I'm like, "That's a good deer." And I was like, "Did you find a match set?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "No." I was like, "Check within 200-300 yards. Check for things that might get caught on, things like that." And so he did, and I don't think he ever found the other one. And he's like, "Where would I sell this?" I was like, "There's antler buyers. You can do this." So he goes and he sells it, and he thinks, "Wow, this is awesome. I just made $16 off this antler," right? And so then he hitchhikes, gets up by Yellowstone, starts hiking through the park, and he finds a elk antler set.
Which you ain't allowed to do.
Yeah. So he takes it in, like, "Hey guys, look at my elk antler I found." And he promptly gets a citation and a court date and everything else to go with it. And he was like, "What?" So
Got to know the rules. And now we have antler seasons here in Colorado. I knew it was coming. They'd done it in Wyoming for years, and it needed to be done. I mean, I like antler hunting as much as the next guy, but you got people that are out there way too early. They're almost scouting the herds, waiting for antlers to fall off. They're trespassing. They're out there when it's still wet, the ground, and they're tearing it up,
They're in the breeding grounds, calving grounds.
Just all kinds of things.
And they'll do stuff, and the Department of Wildlife has countered that by having some GPS located antlers as well out there. So, because I know a lot of times I've seen where people go in before they're supposed to.
Find them, stash them.
Find them, stash
GPS
them. Yeah, GPS them. All of a sudden, it's 2 hours into antler season.
And look what I found.
Yeah, look what I found. I got like a whole truck full.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a known thing out there too. How are you going to catch them? What are you going to do?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Darryl, just one more thing before we sign off of this first part here. Where can people find you if they want to get something mounted, if they got antlers to sell, whatever?
Well, I got a website, got a Facebook page. Before me and Google had a little clash, I was at the top of the page whenever. Now you can't hardly find me, but I've got so much business that, thank you, Google. But everybody here locally knows me. That might affect my out-of-state hunters that are like just looking for a taxidermist,
Right.
But yeah, I'm in Grand Junction. The office phone number, I can say that.
Oh, yeah.
970-243-2933. And leave a message on that if for some reason you don't get us. But during hunting season, this place is always covered. Whether I'm out hunting, employees are going to be here. They know what to do. But always, if for some reason you don't catch us, leave a message. We call you back.
Now, are you still doing poker on Wednesdays?
Once COVID come around, we kind of shut it down.
Oh, yeah.
And so you should have a lot of money saved up. So we'll get you back out here, and we'll take that money pretty quick.
Fill me with a little bit of Crown, and all of a sudden, just start. Okay.
Yeah, drink all you want. We put you on an air mattress for the night. Those are the ones we like playing poker.
That's what you got the dungeon for down there.
No, that straight flush doesn't beat a pair of deuces. What's wrong with you?
Can people come check the man cave out, or
come out here anytime?
Okay, cool. I think
and if you get on my good list, then you're invited to all my little parties and functions that I have around here and out on the front porch. I'm always out there. What am I doing? Looking at my views and having a cocktail. That's at night, after work, after the health club. Then I'm out there. It's not like during the day.
You're a lot more social than most people think of taxidermists.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I always thought of taxidermist as like, some creep, and it's partly because of movies. Some creepy guy down in the basement, got all these heads. This is awesome.
Well, wait till you see me down in the basement. I'm a creepy guy.
That's true. Yeah. Cameras off.
No, I think the mortician, that's kind of freaky. Because, you mess around with human. I mean, these are animals, no biggie, but I don't know, man.
And they're awesome specimens a lot of times.
Yeah.
Well, it is an art. Like, you can tell these are quality. I've seen some bad mounts out there, but these are all, like, stellar.
And the way taxidermy works, how you get into it, you can be self-taught like I was. That means back in my day of starting back in the 80s, you went to the library and checked out a book that was already 30 years old. So learning self-taught, you can self-taught. Of course, nowadays you got YouTube, you got all these things that you can look at. But you can take these courses. It's a little taxidermy school that might last a couple of weeks, couple of months, whatever. Very expensive, but you can learn that way, and they're usually, here's your diploma. They pat you on the back and say, good luck. A lot of those guys don't make it. Some of them do. The best way to learn would be working for a taxidermist that's a good taxidermist. Because if you're working for one that's not that good, you're learning all those bad habits, and carrying it on when you're on your own.
True.
So the best way is to learn from a taxidermist that is good.
Have any of your employees went on to just start their own
Yeah,
places?
and any owner of a taxidermy business has to know that when you have employees, they're thinking in their mind they want to do that someday and go out on their own. So you have to expect it.
Yeah.
And it's just going to happen.
How do I go from minimum wage to making the big bucks?
Yeah, because I make more than, $1 more than minimum wage now. Because
Yeah.
I've been doing this so long.
Exactly.
So, Yeah, so those are your ways of learning. You can be self-taught. You can take the school or learn. And I teach like a one-on-one. I don't advertise it. If someone is here, oh, it's so cool, I'd love to learn how to do this. How do you do it? And I'll tell them, or you can take my course, and then we find out what they want to learn to mount. I just had a guy, turned him loose. He'll come out next week. He graduated from the Corps, probably back in January or so, and he's got potential. He's
Oh, yeah?
yeah, he's got.
How long is your course?
Well, it depends on what animals you want to do. I usually tell a person a couple of months, and then I let you hang around and kind of work for me and still keep learning. And then I don't just pat you on the back and send you on. When you're going to start mounting some things, bring it out here and let me supervise you while you're doing it. I can be mounting a deer head while you're mounting it. Because if he graduated from the course in January, he's going to forget some things by the time he's going to start, taking in business here in September.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, being the kind-hearted person I am, it's like, yeah, come on back. I'll
Just
supervise you and help you out. Paying it forward. There you go.
Yeah, awesome.
So there's harder animals, like there's kind of like advanced animals and.
Well,
easier.
anything that's like a short-haired animal, you got to do smaller stitches. Like an African animal, all those. It's not that they're harder to mount. It's just their hair is less forgiving. You don't have, long hair to hide your stitches, so you got to be a little more precise. As far as one animal being harder than the other, it would be the position on that animal. Like we got a desert bighorn sheep out here. We'll look at that form. It's laying down. Anything that's laying down, legs are all bent up against the body, those are way tougher to do because you got little nooks and crannies that you're trying to work around as opposed to one standing up on all fours. So.
Well, let's take a tour.
Well, awesome.
Let's check
Let's
it out.
move on to the tour.
Let's do it.
I want to thank you very much just for this part of it.